We are live on a Monday morning coming at you. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz at Yahoo Sports Daily. We're not in our little cubicles usually. We're usually on tiny cameras looking at each other, waving. But now we are in person because we are live at American Dream Mall and sitting here hanging out for the IFL Cup. You see the field directly behind us. On that field all day, there will be chaos. It will be a wild day. We've got new games for you all day on the Yahoo Sports Network. We've got one of our IFL Cup games at noon, one game at 7 p.m. Plenty to cover on that, including maybe another brawl. We'll see. We're going to talk to plenty of IFL Cup. But we start today with a little bit of chaos, love, and joy for the city of Cleveland. The Cavs have advanced. The Cavs find themselves in the Eastern Conference Final by way of a big Game 7 blowout win. They absolutely knocked the snot out of the Pistons. What a huge win for Cleveland. And Caroline, look, we haven't always seen the best in Game 7 from James Harden teams. Last night we did in what I think was a wildly unpredictable moment because it was a blowout.
There's definitely a James Harden part of this conversation, but just to zoom out and look at this game as a whole, this was the one outcome I didn't expect. The one outcome, frankly, that I thought was totally and completely off the table. I thought a Detroit blowout, that was within the realm of possibility. I thought a close win either for Detroit or for Cleveland was within the realm of possibility just because these two teams were so closely matched. This felt like from Game 1, a series that could go the entire distance of the 7-game series. I didn't see this Cleveland team with James Harden, who's been incredibly unreliable, in Detroit, a team that is nasty, a place where they do not lose, or at least hadn't lost until they lost that game against Cleveland, in game 5. I expected Detroit to be pissed off, to be embarrassed, to come out with the thunder of the gods to prove a point of we won 60 games in the regular season. We were the number one team in the East. We have Cade Cunningham, one of the best players in the entire NBA. I expected Detroit to defend home court like it was their job. And they came out looking slow. They came out looking confused. They came out with their tail tucked between their legs, and the Cavs came out swinging like they were playing with house money. That's what it felt like. It almost felt like early in that game, Detroit was crumbling under the pressure of being at home, of being in a Game 7, of being the number 1 overall seed, and they just couldn't come back from it.
Which is why so often we don't trust basketball teams that haven't been in that moment before, right? This is a Pistons team, and I struggle with this because we love to put the word great game sometimes on games that are trash, but they have a great ending, right? This season for Detroit now takes a much different feel because you're the number 1 seed, and most of us coming into the year didn't think that would be Detroit. Detroit had a great year. When it ends the way it ends, it changes the way you feel about all of that. And I kept watching this Detroit team last night thinking, this is the same Detroit team that struggled in the first round and we couldn't make sense of it. They had to use all of their turbo button to get back into a series that they shouldn't have. And now they're taking on a Cleveland team that they just didn't have an answer. They couldn't, for a team in Detroit that is defined by their ability to create defensive stops and make games ugly. And they've talked so much about the physicality. They couldn't even stay in front of Cleveland. Cleveland looked faster. Cleveland looked more explosive. It felt like the entire game, Detroit was on the ropes. And I think that's part of why sometimes we just all need a minute before we believe in a team in the playoffs. Because last night, it felt like even though the Cavs haven't played a lot of basketball together, all those players have played a lot of basketball. And it just felt like in that moment, they were far more ready for the Game 7 moment than Detroit, which changes the way Pistons fans are going to feel about the way the season went. It changes the level of sort of joy we have when we look back at, oh, my God, the Pistons are building for something. Now, all of a sudden, today, we wake up, and I think we have long-term question marks about the Pistons because it's not that they lost in 7 games. It's that they got their asses kicked at home in 7 games, and they just didn't look ready for the moment.
It's not just the outcome. It's how you got there. And in J.B. Bickerstaff's post-game press conference last night, he was making comments that frankly made me frustrated. And I can only imagine how Pistons fans are feeling. He said, look, this wasn't a disappointment. We didn't fall short of anything. We got better year over year. And, everybody wants to win a championship every year. And you can't win a championship every year, which is true. But he's like, but as long as you're getting better every single year, then how could this be considered a disappointment? I like to consider myself a glass half full kind of person. I like to approach a lot of things with positivity. That is just blowing smoke. That is unacceptable, in my opinion, for a coach to be talking that way about what was a pure and utter disappointment. You are the number 1 seed in the East. You won 60 games in the regular season. You had Cade Cunningham, who was playing like an MVP for a majority of the season. You were nasty and you were tough defensively. You had a very clear and obvious culture and vision and team identity. There was a very obvious way that this Pistons team wanted to win basketball games, and you fell short of that. Falling short of the Eastern Conference Finals is a massive disappointment for this Pistons team. So I don't want to hear it from JB Bickerstaff. I do want to give credit to the Cavs because they did everything. They checked all of the boxes last night that frankly the Pistons just couldn't. They got production from their superstar in Donovan Mitchell, not just in Game 7, but throughout the course of the series. 39 points and a half. And then last night, Donovan Mitchell, 26 points, 10 of 22 from the field, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. Donovan Mitchell was huge. You got production off the bench. I mean, Sam Merrill with 23 points last night. Like, it had been fascinating to see the battle of these benches. And it did kind of feel like, okay, which team got one more from their superstars, more from their supplementary players, and more from their bench players? The Pistons didn't get anything from their supplementary players. It was really just Cade Cunningham and nobody else. And when you get 13 points from your star player, from your MVP player, I don't care if it's Game 2, I don't care if it's Game 7, you're not winning games, you're not winning series that way. They weren't getting much from their bench. So it was just all of the boxes that the Cavs were checking, all of the things that were going right for the Cavs just weren't for the Pistons.
If this is the stat line for Cade Cunningham last night. 13 points, 5 of 16 shooting, 0 for 7 from 3, 5 assists, 3 turnovers. I say that because if I read you that exact same stat line in a Game 7, and it was about Harden, who, again, was not perfect last night, and he was stretching them. It's not a great night for Harden. But we would be eviscerating him. Mm-hmm. If Donovan Mitchell had played that way, we would be eviscerating him. There's a spot for me here where, as much as we talk about Cade Cunningham, the MVP candidate, 2 things can be true. You can have an MVP caliber season and also be an MDP in this game, most disappointing player. Like, when your best guy is giving you 13 points, and then Jalen Duren, who's turning around, we all know Jalen Duren's likely going to get paid this offseason, gives you 7 points. Tobias Harris, who at times this offseason or this postseason has been really good, gives you 5 points. Like, the Pistons last night were everything that we thought that the Cavs would be in a Game 7. Yeah. The Pistons were the one that couldn't lead up to it. And then you mentioned it. Like, look, Harden last night, 9 points. This game wasn't about Harden. This game was about Donovan Mitchell. It was about Evan Mobley being great. It was about Jared Allen being great. Like, there were so many guys. And to me, again, it was about first step. Repeatedly watching the first step of explosiveness with the Cavs getting to the rim and the Cavs being able to create contact and the Cavs creating chaos and the Pistons not having any answer for that. If it had been Game 1 and I saw that, I think, okay, we're going to adjust. We got all the way to Game 7. You've laid all your cards out on the table. This is playing poker, cards up at this point. Everybody knows what you're going to do. And the Cavs went out and did it better. They did it cleaner. They executed better. They did it calmer. They did all of this. So to your point, I am disappointed in the Pistons. I'm disappointed in the tone afterwards. House money doesn't exist in the NBA. You had an opportunity this year. The 76ers are growing. We'll see what they turn out to be. The Celtics eliminated in this, shocking to many of us. You were the number 1 seed, Detroit, and you blew it. Like, I think you have to look at it both ways. Like, it doesn't mean that the whole season was necessarily a failure, but when you wake up one day and you are the number 1 seed, and there is a clear pathway that could lead you to the NBA Finals, and you get eliminated at home, getting your butt whooped by Cleveland, that has to be a disappointment. And now Cleveland turns around and says, hey, why not us? This is Cavs team that they went in and answered a bunch of questions in Game 7 in a way that certainly has to be definitive.
I will admit here, I have not believed in the Cavs every step along the way. I thought that this series was going to go to 6 or 7 games, but ultimately I picked Detroit. Game 6, I picked Detroit. Game 7, I picked Detroit because I just felt this overwhelming sense of trust, inevitability in this Pistons team that did not come to fruition. And I'm looking at the Eastern Conference Finals, and of course we'll continue to get into more of some of these conference final previews, Western Conference final preview coming up here in just a little bit. But I mean, look, peek behind the curtain here, I'm taking the Knicks in this series. And frankly, I don't even really think it's going to be a wildly close series. So I keep trying to challenge myself of when is the point that I'm going to believe in this Cavs team? When is the point that I'm going to see Donovan Mitchell continuing to step up to the plate and deliver? Something that Cade Cunningham has not been able to do consistently enough in this postseason. And that's the reason why the Detroit Pistons are going to be watching the Eastern Conference Finals from their couch. When I continue to see guys like Dennis Schroeder, when I continue to see guys like Jalen Tyson, like Sam Merrill, guys off the bench that continue to produce for this team, and I'm seeing them do the things that teams have to do to go the distance in a 6 or 7 game series on the biggest stage in basketball. They're doing that. But I'm not believing in this Cavs team, and I think that's partly because of the Knicks, the gauntlet that they've been, the fact that they are coming into this series rested while the Cavs are coming off of an emotional 7 game series. Part of that comes into play here. It's not just the Cavs side of things. But Fitzy, I don't know what more I need to see from Cleveland to give them at least a little bit more benefit of the doubt or believe in them just a little bit more. But every step of the way, when the Cavs prove something to me, I still don't truly believe in it. And I don't know why that is.
It's a great question. I think most of us, if you put truth serum in our veins, would tell you that's probably the case. Like as the season started, our producer, Mike Goldfarb, pointed out that when the season started, I predicted the Cavs would make it to the NBA Finals.
Look at you.
Yeah. I'm not right. I'm lucky. And I'm willing to say that loud because the math that got me to Cleveland there isn't the way that this Cavs team has necessarily looked. Now, last night, again, to your point, they went 8 deep. Like, they went into their bench. They got quality minutes all the way across the board. When Cleveland plays that way, you look at it and say, especially because even the guys on the team have admitted over and over again, Harden after Game 6, talking about the fact that they're still learning how to play with each other, right? Like, so I think Cleveland is growing into something. But to ask me to trust the Cavs is going to specifically ask me to trust that no team is going to figure out how to stop their main guy, Donovan Mitchell. Mm-hmm. And when Donovan Mitchell has a bad night, I tell you this all the time, like I like a choose your own adventure, right? If plan A is shut down, where's your plan B? The plan B, surprisingly, I think for the Cavs has been so much about Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley's been great throughout the course of the entire playoffs. That it almost means that maybe I should stop looking at Harden in the way that I've looked at him. Maybe if I started to look at Harden the way that I've accepted LeBron this year, as like, hey, you're just the third best option on your team, without making that disrespectful to Harden. It's not intended to be disrespectful to Harden. But, like, again, I think so much of my mindset is, well, I don't believe in a big game you can rely on James Harden. I think what the Cavs told us last night is, in a big game, we don't have to rely on James Harden. And that's a stunning development. That's a big change in the way I need to see Cleveland moving forward. Nothing changes of the fact that if we're just talking about take all the brands off their chest, take everything off their wear. If we're asking me to trust Cleveland the rest of the way, the Knicks have looked like the best team in the East, and it's not even close.
Not even close.
But I did watch this Cleveland team last night and think, man, to your point, this is a road win by quick math. Math is hard. 31
points.
Is a cajillion is the right number. 31-point win. This is a win that they were in such control in the first 4 minutes of the game. Like, I just think that Cleveland has done everything they need to do to change the way we think about Cleveland. It's just hard to change the way that we think about the Cavs.
And on the other side, on the Detroit side of things, as impressive as this win was for Cleveland, it is that much of a devastation for Detroit.
Yeah.
You do not lose at home by 30-plus points in a Game 7 and not have to take a look at yourself in the mirror and really reevaluate where your franchise is right now. Look, Cade Cunningham had a great season. He also was not good enough in the postseason. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to move on from Cade Cunningham, but that does at least need to bring up some questions of, are we doing enough around him? The answer, no. You're not doing enough around him. Jalen Duren is going to be due a pretty massive contract this offseason.
We're back to cajillion. It's that
cajillion dollars.
Yeah.
Can you, in good faith, pay Jalen Duren a cajillion dollars after he put up 7 points last night in a Game 7 and has largely been a no-show for majority of the postseason? I think the Pistons need to start evaluating their roster and evaluating who's going to be available this offseason and do some major retooling. Because, yes, you were one of the best teams in the regular season. You weren't good enough in the postseason, and that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah. Miss me with the bad boy conversation. When you just put that on film for your Game 7 at home, don't tell me about the history of your physicality and bad boy.
Be a bad boy in February. Like, if you are a Girl Scout in May, don't want to hear about it.
Oh, absolutely. We've got more NBA coverage coming up for you. Don't forget, obviously, we are hanging out with you at American Dream because the IFL Cup. IFL Cup action comes today, noon Eastern. The Rattlers taking on the Chupacabras. And then tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, the Nighthawks take on the Pirates. Going to be a great couple of games today. And, of course, it'll lead to the final of this on Sunday. A little mid-season tournament for the Indoor Football League. Yahoo Sports Daily from the IFL Cup at the American Dream Mall rolls on when we return in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Myler gets the snap. Myler looks down the field. Bruce caught it! Touchdown! Owen Bruce, player of the game. Perfect throw.
Yeah, that was great throw.
Catch.
Great play. Great play at a critical moment there.
Myler gets the snap. Myler looks. It's going to be a broken play. Needs to get rid of it. He does!
Oh, my
it's
gosh.
caught!
Wow.
This is insane. There were people that showed up tonight with Fernando Mendoza jerseys already, so they were a little bit nervous, but nothing to be nervous about. Remember, guys, in my lifetime as a Raiders fan, only 2 other times have they selected a quarterback in the first round. We're talking about Jamarcus Russell, who's essentially Voldemort to Raiders fans everywhere, and Todd Marinovich. But at the end of the day, it has been a long time since this fan base had a quarterback they could plant their flag with. This is why Raider Nation is so exciting.
Is Kirk Cousins going to win you extra games during that time? I don't think so. I think we're at that stage where Kirk should be a mentor rather than a frontline player. How many times have the two of you seen a quarterback drafted, a GM, team president, owner go to the podium and tell the world, we're going to bring him along slowly, we're going to redshirt him, we've got a veteran here, and by game 3 he started?
Does Orlando win it in overtime, or does this instant classic continue? Deep drop and throw, end zone, Thomas Owens! That's an Orlando overtime winner! That is the most decorated receiver in the history of the franchise. Of course, he's the one to end it.
We are back, coming at you live from American Dream, the IFL Cup. Sorry, I got distracted by a cappuccino machine in the background. I'm not going to lie. Aaron Rodgers' new one-year deal with Pittsburgh includes $22 million guaranteed that can go up to $25 million with incentives per Tom Pelissero. It has finally happened after months of speculation, after months of wondering, after trying to figure out when is Aaron Rodgers going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. We got the answer, and it was over the weekend, and he gets a boatload of cash to go in and do this reasonable deal for a starting quarterback, obviously at $22 million. And now, congratulations, Pittsburgh. You get an answer of who your quarterback's going to be, and we can stop wondering about what it's going to take to bring Aaron Rodgers back.
$22 million, that's a lot of cappuccinos.
Well played.
At least it's early. May. We have an Aaron Rodgers deal in May. I'm accustomed to Aaron Rodgers deals in July going into training camp. So my goodness, what are we going to talk about for the rest of the summer? Look, you can look at this 2 different ways. Steelers fans now have clarity on what the season is going to look like. Now, while we did all feel confident, at least confident enough to talk about Aaron Rodgers going to the Steelers as something as good as a done deal, we know the enigma that Aaron Rodgers is. Truly, one of the strangest people I think that we've ever experienced in the National Football League. So there could have been on any given day, there were some rumors, Aaron Rodgers to the Cardinals, there were some rumors Aaron Rodgers could step away whenever he wants. So at least now Steelers fans have clarity and a definitive picture of what the season is going to look like. But Fitz, I don't think that that's a overly positive outlook. Sure, it's better than what you would probably get from Will Howard or Drew Aller or Mason Rudolph, any other quarterback that they have in that quarterback room. You are much more relevant and you're much a bigger story with Aaron Rodgers under center than you are rolling the dice with any of those other guys. But when it comes to the AFC North, when it comes to the projection for the Pittsburgh Steelers with Aaron Rodgers, I still give him about, I'm feeling generous today, a 5% chance to win the division. Generously. I still don't view the Pittsburgh Steelers as any sort of contender. Sure, they could go 9-8, get into the playoffs, barely squeak into the playoffs, go on the road in the postseason and get obliterated in the wild card round. To stop me if you've heard that story before. Mm-hmm. So while, yes, the Steelers are a better story, a more interesting football team with Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy, you have that certain Aaron Rodgers benefit of the doubt, I still don't think this Steelers team is anywhere closer to where they want to be in the long run. They are exactly where they have been for the last decade.
Congratulations. A mediocre football team gets their mediocre quarterback, and if they hand out awards for mediocrity, the Steelers will be right at the top of that list. Aaron Rodgers, Bill Barnwell tweeted out Aaron Rodgers' QBR ranking over the last 4 years. I realize we don't all love that matchup, but it gives us a sense. 2022, he was 26th of 31. 2023, injured 24, 25th of 32, then 23rd of 28. So what's that tell us? Like a bottom third quarterback, maybe right around mid-level. Like if you were making a list right now, I'm not going to sit here and try and listicle the entire best starting quarterbacks in the AFC, but where does Aaron Rodgers really belong in that list? Well, certainly above where we would presume that we would feel about the Steelers with Will Howard, but nowhere near where we feel about the actual good quarterbacks. I understand you finally made a coaching change, and when you finally make a coaching change, Mike McCarthy comes in, you don't want to lose a bunch of games. And I understand the history that the Steelers offer, but again, I continue to yell and scream this. If you're telling me about the absolute importance of your franchise, but that conversation is based on things that happened more than a decade ago, I wonder how important you really are. I understand the brand of the Pittsburgh Steelers is wildly important to the NFL. The brand of the Pittsburgh Steelers is better than the actual football from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So great. If you want to be relevant, you just got the quarterback that's going to maintain your relevance over the course of this season. Huzzah. If you want to be part of the Super Bowl contending group in the NFL, this did not get you there. You are not going to be there. You're going to win enough games to not completely suck, but you're not going to win enough games to be really good. And Caroline, you give them a 5% chance. I think that's generous. Yeah. I just keep looking at the AFC North, and I feel like if there's ever been a time that I can look around and say, Bengals, what are you doing? Like if the Bengals can't win this division this year, then they need to take a long look in the mirror because the Browns don't have a quarterback that any of us trust. New coach, what does that look like? The Ravens have gone through roster change, new coach, what does that look like? The Steelers have a new coach, no quarterback that I really believe in. It's a talented roster, but it's an 8-win team, right? So if you're the Bengals and you look around and we got Burrow and we got Joe, or we got T and we got Higgins, we have weapons here offensively. If the Bengals can't win this division this year, shame on Cincinnati.
That's also what I've been saying about the Bengals for the last couple of years, though. And they've not even made the postseason. But you're not wrong. And I think if you zoom out to the entire, landscape of the AFC, last year showed us that if in May, we might feel one way about it, but in January, the field could feel incredibly wide open. So, yeah, this does feel like a great opportunity for the Bengals, almost like a if not now, then when type of opportunity for the Bengals in the course of the AFC North. But for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I look at and look at the messaging from the Rooney family is we're not going to sign up for bad football, right? If we feel like we can be competitive, we're going to be competitive. I hear that and I get that. I understand that because taking a deep dive into the unknown, which is what you would be doing with a Will Howard or a Drew Aller or a Mason Rudolph, or intentionally kind of throwing this season away just to be in contention for one of those top quarterbacks in next year's draft. Like, I do understand the hesitation to do that. But this is more, to me, the Steelers, less of the Steelers' fear of being a bad football team and more of the Steelers' fear of being irrelevant, or at least accepting the fact that they are far more irrelevant now than they were 10 to 15 years ago. The brand of the Pittsburgh Steelers is incredibly strong. It is right up there with the Cowboys and the Packers and the great brands, the draws in the National Football League. You see that Pittsburgh Steelers logo and you know exactly what it stands for and what it represents. But right now, the Steelers are kind of taking a page out of the Jerry Jones Cowboys playbook. We'd rather be relevant than competitive. Because I know, we all know the Steelers will not be competitive in the AFC with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. But you'll be relevant. So don't sell me the story of we're trying to compete. So you're bringing in a 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers and not really putting a whole lot of weapons around him. You're just scared of being irrelevant.
And you can't run your NFL franchise scared. That's the hard part for me on this. Look, it's been a decade since they made an AFC championship game. The last time they won a Super Bowl was 2010. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that like Super Bowls are easy to win, right? Sometimes we hear that. And it's like, of course. Well, and then certainly there's been dynastic runs in the AFC. I think part of what's weird about this is, to your point, we talk about the Steelers some kind of way. I'm a Raiders fan. Everybody knows that. We talk about the Raiders at times for everything they did in the 70s. And I laugh at that because I no longer care what happened in the 70s or the 80s or the early 2000s, because when you've sucked for 20 years, that's who you are. At this point today, the Steelers are not anywhere near as important to the league over the course of the last 15 years from a football standpoint as the Patriots or the Chiefs in their own conference. Like, you start thinking about the way the tone has shifted. I understand everything that the Steelers have done generational. I understand how important their franchise is to the legacy of the NFL. But if the question is today, for somebody that's 20 years old, how relevant are the Steelers? If you're 20 years old, you don't remember when the Steelers were really great. You just remember the Steelers are always sort of that mid. The Steelers are, to use the kids' term, the epitome of 6'7" for all the kids that are out there, right? And so now, I love that I'm saying the kids, now you bring in Mike McCarthy, and you're trying to sell to your fan base, this is the change that's going to get us back to Super Bowls. My question is, how? How is Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers in the climate of the current NFL actually going to get you back to the Super Bowl? So what you really have here is, hey, guys, don't worry. When we're on national TV, it's going to be a fun story. And that's awesome. If you want to be a great brand, just admit to your fan base, to the league, admit to everybody that you're a super profitable, important, great brand that people wear all over the world, that's not really known for what they do anymore on the football field, but instead known for what they used to be.
Have you watched Friends?
Yeah, of course.
Love Friends. You know the episode after Ross and Rachel break up, and Rachel starts dating a guy named Russ. And he looks like Ross, and he sounds like Ross, and Ross are both scientists. They're the same person, essentially. That's what the Pittsburgh Steelers are now. Like, they tried to do all of these changes a couple of years ago in the offseason. So what did they do? They moved on from old and injured players with expensive contracts and brought in new old and injured players with expensive contracts. You know, they went out and they got a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers a couple of off seasons ago. Then last season wasn't good enough. So what do? You move on from Mike Tomlin, and then you bring in Mike McCarthy, and you bring in Aaron Rodgers, and you bring a bunch of old and injured players back in. And then you need to revamp the receiving corps. So you bring in Michael Pittman, friend of the show, great guy, but not necessarily the guy that's going to, totally and completely transform your offense. The Steelers, it feels like every year know that they need to do something different, but they're just Ross and Russ. You're just kind of swap and split. You're doing the same things. And I think that puts an insurmountable amount of pressure on Mike McCarthy to all of a sudden transform this team and to do something different, but he doesn't necessarily have the ingredients to make a product that's that wildly different than what the Steelers have put out over the last decade.
What's funny to me about this is anytime we speak negatively of certain brands, fans come out of the woodwork, right? And so inevitably...
Nice to hear that your team's not going to be good.
But here's the thing. The number of times, even Steelers fans will come at me for this and say, hey, my team's better than your team. Your team sucks more. What are you talking about? Unfortunately, when you reach the point as a fan base that you're talking about being better than suck, like it's the same as raising banners, you've lost the plot. The Steelers used to be about lifting the Lombardi trophy. They used to be about raising banners into the rafters. The Steelers used to be about being the best team in the NFL. And now the biggest thing that Steelers fans can say 99% of the time, the biggest thing the organization can hang their hat on is, well, we're better than all these teams over here that sucks. That's what bad teams fight for. Bad teams fight for, don't talk about me that way. I don't suck that much. Great teams fight for championships. I don't see any version of this year's Pittsburgh Steelers. You can clip this off and aggregate it. Tell me how wrong I am if I turn out wrong at the end of the year. At the end of the day, I don't see any chance that this Steelers team goes to the Super Bowl. So, to me, lost the plot.
I don't even think they make the playoffs.
Yeah. And that's where they are now. Like, Pittsburgh is now in that middle-class conversation.
And now that you have kind of these, dare I say, nouveau riche teams in the AFC, because before you always had to worry about Mahomes and the Chiefs and Josh Allen and the Bills and Lamar Jackson and the Ravens and Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Those teams aren't going anywhere. And then, now you have Bo Nix in Denver. Now you have Drake May and the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots are going to be a team that, gets as far as they did this past season, but they're still a team that I don't think is going to, completely falter and go from worst to first back to worse again. So in a rich AFC with so many great quarterbacks and so many great coaches, last year proved to us it's getting that much deeper and that much more competitive. So if you're not willing to do kind of the bold things and make those bold changes for your team, you're going to stay stuck where you were, if not even fall even deeper into irrelevancy.
Two people always willing to be bold. Head coaches in the IFL. There was tons of controversy. There was tons of viral moments from it. There was a brawl on the field. We're going to break it down with those two men. Yahoo Sports Daily from the IFL Cup and the American Dream Mall rolls on when we return in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Quarterback, you want those guys that just go down hard or they chase them back.
Here comes
I feel like that's
Pius
like my
once
in-game
again, gets
promo.
through.
Don't
The
go
ball
in.
is hauled
Can
in
they
off
match
the
it?
dashboard by
Don't even
Baldwin
go to the
Cook
bathroom.
Jr. A
Check.
full-grown man reception there at the 15-yard line. Atkinson's two in motion.
Hello, how are you? Great to
He'll
meet
run
you in
behind the block.
person.
Now throw back to Marlon Cook Jr. And the ball's caught for a touchdown.
Yeah, do you care who's sitting where?
Excuse me, let me move this stuff for you. I left
But
my
I'm not
boxing
gonna
gloves
lie, I
at
was
home,
totally
so everybody
shocked. I was
behave.
shocked that they actually pulled the trigger. I wondered if they would, again, still try to build around a huge talent in the WNBA, who's a huge star, one of the most popular players in the league, regardless of what you think about her play. They're going to be able to move games to State Farm Arena where the Hawks play now because of the Angel Reese effect. And I think she wanted an organization that had a clear vision of the future, and she gets that in Atlanta.
I loved A-Cup all year. I mean, what an amazing college player. Oh, yeah. It's just his prototype in the NBA concerns me. But A-Cup to me is the one that says, is he as good as Trae Young offensively? Probably not. Is he as bad
Let's test some audio
defensively as
quickly.
Trae
This over
Young?
here?
I wouldn't mind giving up.
Probably.
I think that's yours, yeah.
And,
You talking? Oh, sorry,
there's a
Kevin. Can you talk
question
into the
about
mic
how
real quick?
playable
Check 1 2
Trae
3.
Young
Check
is,
1 2 3.
even with the skill set that
Check
he
1 2.
has.
Check 1.
There's the toss to Kerrigan.
Mike, can you
check 1 2 3
at the 2-yard line?
Yeah, and a great effort by Carson Taylor, defensive end. He makes Kerrigan really have to get wide here, and then good pursuit
I won't
by
get
the rest
distracted
of
by
the
the
defense.
cappuccino machine this time. I was staring over there trying to figure out where the cappuccino was. I didn't see it over there. Thank you.
Here's to give to Clark. Open space. Hurdles a defender, and he's tackled at the 17.
Which camera are we looking at?
You see it right here. This was a moment I was on the field for. Things got heated. I'm not going to lie. I've had people in Twitter, social media ask me if this was a work, if this was a WWE moment. And all I know is I was standing on the other end, and all of a sudden Jared Widman, who will join us later, the president of the IFL, came flying down in a level of speed I didn't know he had, screamed, "Go get in there!" And you'll see it in just about a minute where I come in. Fancy Suit comes in with the microphone, having the unenviable job of putting that microphone in both of those coaches' faces to figure out what in the hell was going on. And we are going to break it down now. We are joined by those two coaches, head coach of the Arizona Rattlers and of Kevin Guy sitting next to me, and Mike Davis, head coach of the Vegas Nighthawks. Gentlemen, obviously the IFL Cup, that you don't play each other today, but you might play each other depending on the outcomes on Sunday. Things are getting spicy. So, Mike, we'll start with you, brother. What happened? Because I come running up to you with the microphone, and I'm saying, what happened? What happened?
Just two guys being passionate, trying to win a football game, right? And sometimes you let your emotions get the best of you, and you get a shove here, a shove there, and you keep it moving.
Coach?
Well, everybody says that me and Mike don't like each other, but I disagree because he was blowing a lot of kisses to me on the field after.
That's awfully nice of you.
You show the love where you can show the love.
So where are we today? Have we settled the beef?
This is the first time we talked.
Yeah.
Just now.
How did it go?
I mean, it's
Behind the
fine. There's no issue between me and Kevin.
It was really blown out of proportion. We really didn't. We were having fun with it. I mean, I was messing with him on X a little bit, but other than that, we haven't talked. I mean, we both got organizations we got to run, but it's sport of football. We're emotional guys. We're passionate about what we do. We're alpha males, and we're no different than the players. And their organization was the one that put the two benches side by side. So I'll let Mike explain that one.
I mean, and for anyone that hasn't seen, the two benches literally are sitting next to each other in the stadium, in the arena, and that got heated too. The players were shoving, and it was getting into something, Mike. So obviously, it got heated with the players too.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I didn't build the building, right? the plans were made before we got there, and so at the end of the day, you wish you had a little more space. But everybody, it's when tempers flare, you figure it out, and you see cooler heads prevail, and you see some guys being professionals, and some guys they're going to act like the coaches, right? They're going to take on the personalities of the coaches, and for the most part, that's fantastic. Sometimes you wish you could draw it back a little bit, but it is what it is.
I want to start with you because, like you said, your team can take on the identity or the emotions of your coaches. Have you felt a different level of getting fired up from your team since this incident happened? Like, coach is rocking with us, so we're rocking with our coach kind of mentality with your team? Actually,
it's been the opposite. We've just had jokes running through the locker room for a couple of weeks now, having fun with it. We really haven't, it was over the next day. Well, about 2 days later. I mean, me and the commissioner had a conversation. I'm sure Mike had one. But other than that, I moved on quickly. We had to get ready for another game.
What did the commissioner say to you?
Hey, here's your fine. Keep it under control. I mean, you know better. And at the end of the day, it's not about better. It's you get in the heat of the moments, things happen. A little shove here, a little shove there. All right, keep it moving.
Okay, so I'll be real, as I always am with the audience in general. For me, standing in the end zone, I'm looking at 20 guys that are far larger than I am going at each other. I'm looking at you two going at each other. My first thought is, man, the next time these two teams play each other, you also happen to be the last two IFL champions, right? Like, so these are two of the best franchises in the entire league, right? I'm looking at this saying, if we see each other Sunday, I'm going to be on that sideline. I'm going to be honest. I'm a little nervous about that. Like, how do you keep, not just but how do you keep your team's emotion? You can't tell me with a straight face that your team's going to come out on Sunday if you two are playing each other and not have a little bit of extra kick in their giddy up.
Well, we're both out in the desert, right? And they're a fairly new organization. They won their first championship. We've been going for over 30 years, and we've got a lot of championships. And they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're trying to become, the organization that we've been over the last 30 years. And, so they got another good team this year. They're going to be a tough out. And, we're fighting for the number one seed. So, when our players do play each other, it's going to be really competitive. And look, I mean, they're going to compete for 60 minutes. And then after the game, we're like any other league. We'll go back to being ourselves.
Any worry about the fire and emotion?
No, I mean, we keep preaching, hey, you got to keep your cool, right? But when you step on the field, the competitive juices got to fly. Just don't do anything to hurt yourself, and don't do anything to hurt your teammates. And if you do that, like, it'll be a competitive game. I mean, we play tough games. They come down to the wire every time we've played each other almost. And so at the end of the day, it's just two good teams competing to see who can prevail that certain day.
Fitz and I were just in Fishers for the Sharks Freight matchup on Saturday night, and I was in the middle of the two benches. I heard a lot of exchanging of words. I heard some not very nice nicknames. We saw ejections. We saw taunting on both sidelines. We just saw the altercation between you two. What is it about this time in the season, in this league, where tensions are started kind of running over?
I think that you figure out where you are, right? And people are jockeying for position, right? Like the Fishers-Jacksonville matchup, you have Fishers who's trying to cement themselves to try to get a 1-2 seed. And, frustrations are running high because, Fishers had a, 10-point lead and they lost it. And then for us, it's, there's the big three out west. And, we kind of jockey for position to figure out how it works out. And at the end of the day, it's always going to play itself out no matter what happens. But you just want to get in the dance at the end of the day.
You said earlier, don't do anything that puts your team in a bad position. In fairness, you were kicked off the field. You had to stay off the sideline. You got a talking to by the refs. I'll go to each of you, but I'll go to you first, Kevin. Do you feel like, looking back on it, that you did something that hurt your team?
No, not at all. No, not at all. I mean, we got headsets. Nothing changed, for us. It was just I wasn't on the field. I was just sitting in the box, and so it really didn't affect us, too much. But, the regular season's, it's like Mike said, we're all jockeying for a position, but it really comes down to the playoffs. And when you get to the playoffs, it's who's the best team on that day. And, we're excited to have the opportunity to try to make another run here. It's not over yet, but we're at midseason. That's where teams start trying to separate from the other teams, and you're going to see some separation over the next 2-3 weeks. And, the way some of these teams are looking, some of the higher seed teams are going to get in the playoffs here pretty quick.
Mike, do you feel like you hurt your team?
No, I think that at the end of the day, I wish I could have controlled some of my players a little faster. But at the end of the day, for us, just like anything, you start running downhill. It's like, oh, you take the bait. Okay, I'm gonna play it up. Blowing kisses at him. Oh, thanks, Kevin, appreciate it. That stuff. But that's just to see, okay, how far are we going to go, right? And it was never going to amount to anything else that it was some conversations, right? Some choice words. But like Kevin said, it's the next couple of weeks you're going to see guys kind of, okay, they've clinched a playoff spot. Okay, now let's see how much can you fine tune at the last part of it.
That was in the moment that night, how maybe that impacted your teams on that respective night. What about afterwards? I'll start with you, Coach Davis. What do you feel like you learned about your team from that game and how they responded?
I mean, they were ready to do what had to be done. Like, obviously, we weren't talking about fighting or anything like that. We were just talking about, hey, how do you take this and how do you build on it, right? Like, hey, there was some learning lessons in that game, and at the end of the day, we addressed them and told guys, hey, this is how we can attract this better, and and kind of just laid it to rest. Like, fortunate enough for us, we had a bye week, so it kind of lingered a couple more days. Like, we didn't have somebody to get ready for yet. So, but we kind of moved on to Orlando and went from there.
Okay. What do you feel like you learned from your team?
From my team? We're always stronger the second half of the season. We experiment a lot with moving players in and out of the lineup. The first half of the season, seeing who can do what. But then as we get to about the midpoint, which after tonight we'll be at midpoint, we start dialing in and putting the pieces in that we want to make the run with. Sometimes it's like that last quarter of the season. But our team's ready to go. I thought we played well coming off the loss in Vegas. We came back home and played really well against Tucson. And, hopefully we're going to take another step forward tonight.
So one of your players tweeted out the dynasty is dead afterwards. Do we feel like Vegas is cementing themselves as the new dynasty of the IFL?
We're not there yet. Like, we'd like to be, for sure. I mean, that's always the end goal, right? Like, I think he said it, to be the guy, you got to beat the guy. Okay, so we're up 1-0. Big deal.
That wasn't my saying. That was Mike saying. I don't see him anymore. Mike started that. I never said that.
All right, so let me take the flip side with you, because you told me before the Vegas game that it was a little bit of baptism by fire. You'd learn a lot about your team. So you got through the Vegas game. What do you know now?
Well, we turned over 75% of our roster this year. So we had an all-rookie defense when we went up there and played them. We've made a couple changes since then because I felt like we needed some leadership. But look, I mean, the dynasty is not over. I can tell you that. I mean, congratulations to Vegas. They won it last year, but we won it the year before. I don't know how many years you got to take off before the dynasty's over. But we got so many rings. We're over here playing Jenga with our rings, man.
Which is honestly a game that I would like to play after this, maybe at the break. But I'd like to see you jostle with some of those rings. But with that point, being a dynasty, being a team that has been around, being an indoor football, a team, a brand that is so recognizable, is there a certain amount of pressure that you feel to keep your team at that dynastic level?
No, not at all. I mean, it's just becomes a way of life, and I see it as a challenge every year to get this team, in a position to try to compete for a championship. And, and every year we do something a little different. I made some changes this year. in midseason. We changed quarterbacks. I took a few weeks off. I'm letting Peyton call some plays. Me and his dad are good friends, and Peyton's a very knowledgeable coach, and we're trying to get him ready for his next opportunities too. So I think there's a lot of responsibility that goes into being a head coach. That you got to not just get your your players ready, but you got to get your coaches ready for their next opportunity. And we develop a lot of people in our organization, and there's been a lot of coaches that's left our organization that went to other organizations, been successful. His offensive coordinator, Curtis Chin, with us. Rod Windsor, the head coach at Orlando, is with us. So we've had several guys that's come through that's went on to be successful. So when I look back, it's not just about winning a championship, but we've really helped people advance their careers.
It's going to be electric. We know it's going to be electric. Obviously, you both have different opponents today. Lots to focus on. There's a noon game. There's a 7 p.m. game for the IFL Cup. You don't want to miss any of it. And should it be that you happen to play on Sundays, it'll be electric. So either way, it's going to be great. Gentlemen, appreciate you, especially right before game time, joining us. Appreciate you. Best of luck to both of you. Thanks for not fighting here. If it happens on the field, somebody just protect me. That's all I ask. Great stuff from them. As a reminder, we've got all that action for you. Yahoo Sports Daily from the IFL Cup and American Dream Mall rolls on. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Right back to work. TJ Edwards and Paxton DeLorette going blow for blow. Edwards. Oh, what a blitz pickup. Edwards to the end zone, and that is another touchdown. Third down. DeLorette throwing, coming back to make a great catch. Thomas Owens, the best receiver in the history of the franchise, just added another highlight to the reel.
I think from the Raptors, what did they learn here? They learned like they're in a great spot. And then Scotty Barnes, welcome. You have achieved stardom. Like that's what this series was for Scotty Barnes. He became a star. The dude hit clutch bucket after clutch bucket, made big plays as a playmaker as well. He was too big or too quick, depending on the guy he was being defended by. He was incredible.
The UFC has just given me so much, and I've met so many great fans around the world, different states and things like that, and I'm just blessed. And like I said, I'm glass half full all the time. Even when things are not going my way, I find a way to look at the bright side. I'm just happy to be here, man. And one fight at a time. When it's all said and done, I would love to have my last dance with the UFC.
Myler gets the snap. Myler extends the play, throws on the rope, finds Bruce. Bruce lowers his head, reaches for the end zone and scores. Great pass by Myler, better effort by Arlen Bruce. And this Arizona offense is grooving. They retake the lead with 9 seconds left in the half.
Breaking yesterday came out. Oklahoma City Thunder's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, stop me if you've heard this before, wins the MVP. This is his second consecutive MVP award, becomes the 14th player in league history to win back-to-back honors. Shams putting that out. By the way, people were fired up about Shams putting that out in the morning. Like an insight, like he's going to sit on that all day and be like, well, there's a broadcast later. I'm not going to tell everybody. I make my living.
Break news. So he broke news.
Absolutely insane. But do we feel like the voters got it right with SGA going back-to-back?
They did. This shouldn't have come to a surprise to anyone that SGA won back-to-back MVPs. The writing was on the wall. We've essentially been talking about SGA for the last month, even more than the last month, of, well, he's going to be the MVP. It's just the matter of whenever Shams breaks it. So, yes, I do think the voters got it right. And if you want to look at the rest of the field, look, Jokic was another player that was very rightfully so in the MVP conversation. He had a bad postseason series against Minnesota. He was essentially, not very impactful in the postseason. So I think that kind of diluted his case. I was surprised, if you want to see the voting breakdown, I was surprised that Wemby didn't get more votes. If we want to talk about postseason importance, I was surprised he didn't get more votes than he did. But I think you start to look at usage. Wemby's averaging about 29 points compared to SGA's usage. You're going to look at the Spurs and the fact that they can win in so many different ways with or without Wemby. SGA is the best player, the focal point, the foundational piece as we have a
it's live
ball
TV.
coming off
We're
of
doing live TV. We're going to help them out.
Live TV in front of a field. We're going to get rogue balls flying all over the place. It's just a matter of when, not if. Don't laugh. SGA is the best player on the best team in the NBA. SGA is the best player on a team that looks like they're on a path to win their second consecutive championship. So, yes, the voters got it right.
This is one of those moments for me where what drives me crazy is everybody wants sexy. Everybody wants something flashy. Everybody wants something new. And that's just how we treat the MVP constantly. I feel like the argument against SGA is that people are bored with it. And I really don't care. Like, I don't feel like we need to have the, are we not entertained? Like, this isn't, some random movie. It's the NBA, right? Like to me, it bothers me so much that because he's a mid-range shooting, foul drawing assassin, I feel like I'm Ric Flair here introducing the guy. But because of the way he plays the game, some people are bored with it. I just see effectiveness. All I see is every single night consistent effectiveness. And if every single night, no matter how much the team across from you tries to take you away, no matter how much they try and limit your effectiveness, no matter how much they try and do anything, they can't. That, to me, has value. So I get that it isn't MJ, dunking over people. I get that he's not a 360 spin around. I get he's not doing trick shots that belong in a McDonald's commercial. But every single night, he's wildly, consistently brilliant. So if voters had picked Wemby, I don't have a problem with that. I just hate the tone of the conversation around SGA because people find his game to be boring.
You bring up Michael Jordan. SGA has a very high chance to do something that only Michael Jordan has done in the history of the NBA. And that's win back-to-back MVPs and back-to-back championships in the same seasons. But you say we all want something sexy. It's not sexy. SGA winning back-to-back MVPs isn't sexy. Why? If this was LeBron, if this was Wemby, if this was Jokic, if this was Ant, it would be like, we would have led the show with it. Back-to-back MVPs for LeBron James? That would be the biggest story in sports. Yet SGA wins back-to-back MVPs. I don't think SGA is a top 5 superstar in this league. Not player. I'm not saying SGA isn't a top 5 player. I'm saying SGA is not a top 5 brand. SGA is not a top 5 most recognizable person in the NBA. I have a few people that I go to, people in my life that are casual sports fans, right? They're not diehards for any sport, casual sports fans. And sometimes I'll tee them up with questions. Pictures of players. Hey, do you know who this person is? Hey, have you heard this story? And it gives me a good pulse on the conversation outside of the people who live, eat, and breathe sports like we do. I sent them photos. One photo of LeBron James and one photo of gilgeous-alexander. I said, do you guys know who these people are? They said, well, of course we know LeBron. Duh. Didn't know who SGA was. So SGA it's crazy to me how we have the best player on the best team for the second consecutive year in the NBA. Back-to-back MVP. They have gone 8-0 in the postseason. Yet SGA is not the same kind of superstar that is resonating with the general public as maybe some other players who have achieved less in this league. And a part of that is just his style of play. It's not flashy. People talk about more of the flops of SGA, probably more than they talk about what he, can accomplish on the court. But I don't know why, in a marketing sense, SGA is just not landing like some other superstars in this league.
Let's go back to our preseason conversation. So when the season first started, part of the reason I felt like OKC needed to be historic was because we don't pay attention unless it's something we've never seen before.
Right.
So Jokic wins MVP, nobody's paying attention, nobody cares, right? Jokic wins championship, nobody really cares. Like, the average person wasn't clamoring through the streets, right? Like, they weren't doing cartwheels for Jokic's run. They're not doing cartwheels for SGA. And the hard part about it is, Oklahoma City won 64 games this year. Riddled with injury, they only lost 18 times.
So crazy.
Incredible team. But unfortunately, 64 isn't a historic number. If they had won 74 games, everybody be in love with SGA. Like, oh my God, we've never seen this before.
I don't think they would.
I think they would if the result was something we had never, ever seen before. But maybe you're right. And I hear people all the time say, well, all he does is draw fouls. Or my favorite, he's one-dimensional. Somebody show me the second dimension of Shaq's game. Like, did I miss the part where Shaq
is 7 feet tall and massive?
And Shaq, like, certain people in the world have it factor. Certain, like, Jimmy Fallon is not the best comic. Nobody's ever accused Jimmy Fallon of being the funniest guy in the world. But there's an it factor that a lot of people gravitate to, where if you walked into a bar and he was sitting there, you feel like you could walk up and have a conversation and you guys would be best friends. Like, that's an it factor certain people have. Shaq has this, when you meet Shaq, it just oozes off of him. You want to spend more time. You're like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Gronk is a guy that you spend 3 minutes in the same room with Gronk and you feel cooler. You spend 10 minutes in the room with SGA, you don't even know you spent 10 minutes in the room with SGA. He doesn't resonate the same way because I don't think that matters to him. And I also don't know that he has that certain star power, right?
But, like, he wears the big fur coats in post-game press conferences, like, has the swag, has the drip, has this kind of laissez-faire, I don't care attitude that resonates with other players. Like the drip, the clothes, the attitude. You see it right there on the screen, the kind of swagger that he has. But it's just not hitting the same.
You're right, and
as
it
other
should.
players. And I wanted to, for the sake of him, for the sake of this team, for the sake of us as sports fans appreciating the greatness that is SGA, appreciating the greatness that is this Thunder team. But it just feels like this Thunder team, outside of basketball hardos, is so
I also wonder, weirdly, deep thought, if the downfall of shoe branding at the same time as the ascension of SGA. Because a decade ago, the SGA shoe would have mattered. And now, shoes in general, basketball-branded shoes are not resonating the same way with people that they did before. We asked somebody last week, will there ever be somebody that has another shoe as impactful as Air Jordans, right? Like, there are currently all sorts of reports coming out and studies being done about why certain shoe brands with basketball are becoming less important and other things are taking off more. I think that there's like a change in the mindset of what we worship from different NBA guys too. So like the branding opportunity even from that is different. And you're right. If you sit in a sports bar any given night and casual NBA guys are around and the sound's off and SGA is in a TV commercial, how many people look up at the screen and say, oh yeah, that's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? Versus how many people look up and say, oh, yeah, that's a basketball player. I've seen him somewhere. For a guy that's now back-to-back MVPs. For a guy that is the superstar on the best team. For a guy that, frankly, is deserving of far more. Like, he's getting all of the accolades. He is deserving of more popularity.
Especially because it was a crowded MVP conversation. It was Jokic, it was Wemby, it was Cade Cunningham, it was for a while Jaylen Brown in the conversation, and it was crowded at the top. It's crowded in the West, and SGA still feels like the unanimous pick.
Yeah.
I also do wonder too, LeBron, KD, Steph, Draymond, all of these great players who have been great, incredibly popular for a long time, they're still in the league, and they're still playing at a high level. Players are playing longer than they ever have before. Whereas previously, superstars play, superstars cement themselves, and they retire, and that almost leaves room for a new group of superstars to cement themselves and create brands of their own. It's almost like the superstars of yesterday aren't creating room for these superstars, these younger players of today. But then I look at Wemby, year 2 in the league, and he is an absolute sensation superstar. But to your point, he is something that we've never seen before. He is this 7'5" player that can do anything on the court.
When you are easily defined, like if somebody's never seen you before, you can easily say, "Hey, that is the 7th wonder of the world."
That's Wemby.
That's Wemby. Also, to your point, even the way platform is used now, like the popularity of inside the NBA and Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley, it's the most predictable thing in the world. Because if you watched either of them when they played, you knew they were going to be TV superstars whenever they wanted to be TV superstars.
Yeah.
That's just not how SGA is wired. When we watch SGA, I don't sit there and say, oh, yeah, that's the guy. Versus Wemby, who we see on the screen there also, like Wemby seems to already have that. Like, put the microphone in front of me. Let me have this fire. Let me have this flair. I wonder just we always talk about, well, why isn't SGA getting more of these things? The other side of it is, does he even want more of them? Because we certainly don't see that. At least we don't see that in who he is as a person. None of it matters. Oklahoma City is the best team in the NBA, and they have the best player in the NBA that's a back-to-back champion, and as you mentioned, now has the chance to join Michael as a back-to-back champion and a back-to-back NBA champion. So, obviously, there's more to come on this. By the way, if you're just tuning in, we are at American Dream Mall. Thoughts and prayers for us because the teams are starting to come out and they're warming up. Should be noted, directly behind us is one of the end zones. And it has now occurred to me that one of the kickers is going to warm up. So that's going to go how that goes. Like the kicks, if one of us get beamed in the head, it'll be the most viral moment we've had on the show. And we've had some viral moments. Jay Glazer could get some competition.
But look, we love you, Jay Glazer, and we love what you did here on this show. Nothing beats a good football to the head, so I'm going to be dodging those.
I will not save you. It's a save yourself sort of world.
That's fine. That's okay.
Games at noon and 7 p.m. on the Yahoo Sports Network. Of course, the IFL Cup. You don't want to miss that. Coming up, more Yahoo Sports Daily from the IFL Cup at the American Dream Mall. It rolls on when we return in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Are there any teams that come to mind, whether it's Brooklyn, whether it's Sacramento, or anybody else that you think has good incentive to try to move up in the draft?
If there was a team that I was looking at that had an asset, it's Milwaukee at 10 that might use Giannis to, for example, maybe try to get that 5th pick from the Clippers. That's the only team that I'm looking at right now that I say, okay, I think they've got the juice.
This is a team that is also doing it without some signature players in their rotation. Hunter Green, we have not seen him. But what Terry Francona and his staff are putting together right now, Sal Stewart is a Rookie of the Year candidate. Ellie De La Cruz is an MVP candidate. So, yeah, I think that the Cincinnati Reds are a team that has some staying power in what is a very interesting and potentially compelling National League Central.
Give us your final loser here, Boone.
Denzel Boston. Among this rookie class, I think we had a lot of hope that he was going to go in round 1. That didn't occur. But they took a first-round receiver in Casey Concepcion, who I think is a better prospect. This team often has to deal with bad weather late in the season, which can also impact pass catchers at the worst possible time in the fantasy calendar. It all boils down to me not being nearly as excited about him as a prospect in Dynasty or redraft.
Second and 3. Neal down the left side. Run is open. Touchdown. Second touchdown today. Gavin Rudd. 4th and goal. Steamwheelers have to have it. Neal well protected. Neal, now he's in trouble. Into the end zone. Jump ball touchdown. Keon Williams, his second touchdown today.
The New York Knicks open as a minus 270 favorite versus Cleveland, plus 215 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Biggest Eastern Conference Finals series favorite New York Knicks have been since at least 1988. That brilliant tweet is why you should be following Ben Fox at Fox22 on Twitter. And Ben joins us now. Okay, just again, quick disclaimer. We are at American Dream. They are warming up behind us, Ben. Footballs might come flying at any point. Dive. Save yourself.
You got me, right?
No, I got nobody. I'm not saving anybody. I am diving underneath. There's also coffee up here, so save your laptop.
Save the coffee.
Save your laptop. Save yourself.
Right.
I won't save you.
Save me. All right, that's all the things. So we're bringing you in because obviously you are sports betting analyst for Yahoo Sports and really interested. The Knicks are a 7.5-point favorite in Game 1. How much are we factoring in the rest advantage when we talk about this?
Yeah, look, it's definitely a factor. Just talking to odds makers, right? Especially Game 1, right? So we saw a 7.5-point favorite. That would be a little lower, right? If it came at 1, they're at home too, right? So they don't have to go to Detroit. Obviously good for the Knicks. And the second is they have all that rest, had more than a week. So it'll even out over the course of the series. They're basically playing every other day. So Game 1 is really the first one. But for the Knicks fans, minus 270 is just shown in that tweet. That's about an implied probability of 73% chance to win. This is it, right? Previous high was in 1994 when they faced the Pacers, minus 200 favorites there. Last year they were minus 155. If you're sensing a theme, it's that this year they are the biggest favorite. It's all lined up for them. 7.5-point home favorites. Knicks fans, like, this is it. You got Towns. Everybody's healthy. You had time to rest OG Anunoby. It's all kind of setting up. Great job by the Cavaliers. Not sure what happened to the Pistons in Game 7, but here we are, Eastern Conference Finals, and, like, this is it for the Knicks.
I think the ticket prices are also indicative of how ready and fired up Knicks fans are, because we're in New York, so I thought, okay, let me just take a look-see. Just let me see what it would cost to get into MSG for Game 1. Not anything that I can afford. Yeah. I do want to look at the other side of this, though, in the Western Conference Finals. We were just having a conversation about the star power of SGA versus Wemby. The Wemby feels like he's resonating so much more as a league superstar, maybe more than SGA is, even though he's a back-to-back MVP. We do know that that can influence the way that Vegas looks at certain matchups. So how are bettors looking at this Western Conference Final?
Yeah, a fascinating series. Wemby didn't even get fined for that elbow, right? I'm not just as a T-Wolves fan. I'm unbiased.
Hat on our heads,
Look, it's a fantastic series. Thunder minus 250, Spurs plus 200. This has come down a little bit. Thunder opened about minus 275 at some books. It isn't surprising that people are betting on the Spurs, right? I think for the public. One, we haven't seen the Thunder in a while, right? They've been off, so the public is going to tend to bet what they saw last. That was the Spurs blowing out the Timberwolves. Wemby obviously looking great. Thunder 6.5-point home favorites in Game 1. And this should be noted too, the cheapest the Thunder have been as a series favorite. Last year, they were all more than minus 200 on their title run. So if you like the Thunder, you're getting them cheap. However, the public is backing the Spurs for the series price out 80% of bets and money. As, again, people like to bet a little to win a lot. You get 2-1 with the Spurs, whereas the Thunder are favored. This should be a really good series as well. But I do think it's interesting just at that price. If you like the Thunder, that is a cheap price. Obviously, the Spurs are a very good team and beat them a lot in the regular season, which I think is why this price is a little down, depending on what it could have been if, let's say, that was 3-2 or the Thunder had beaten them more often in the regular season.
So in the spirit of being at the IFL Cup today, let's talk a little bit of football. Not the indoor league, but the outdoor league here. So moving to the NFL, we had schedule release last week, and I'm already figuring out where to book my Super Bowl tickets for the Raiders. But are there any win totals in 8 years? Are there any win totals that stand out to you now that the schedule is out for every team?
They got those super future bets.
Yeah.
8 years, any of the next 8 years.
Oh, that'd be a great bet. It's like, in the next 15 years, will the Raiders win a Super Bowl? I'll put a pizza bet on that.
Why not?
Yeah, that will be a good one. So there were a couple that stood out here. I'm curious to see what you guys think as well. One was the Falcons, right? We don't generally talk a lot of Atlanta Falcons football, but their win total is 7.5. They're underdogs in 15 games of the 17. Now, it is always interesting as well, right? I think people see that, they go, whoa, how can the win total be 7.5? Well, a lot of those, they're small underdogs, right? And so if you want to kind of figure out the win total, you can take, I was told there'd be no math, but we'll do a little bit of math. You take the money line, convert that to an implied probability, and add all of those up. And that's roughly where you'll get that. So even though they're underdogs in 15 games, including 14 of their first 15, the win total is still 7.5. I still kind of like the under, also because do you want to, do we know if Michael Penix Jr. is healthy? Do we care about, is either one a good option? Yeah. So in that division, I think that's a little difficult.
Isn't that essentially the opposite of what we saw last year for the Patriots? They were favorite in everything but one game coming into the season. So even though their win total didn't look like they were going to be epic, they were favorites in everything but one. And then by the end of the year, we're like, oh my God, the Patriots are so good. Like, this is the opposite of that for the Falcons.
Right. And look, you can get kind of a sense of what team. And again, we always talk about the schedules, right? Are you playing that first place schedule? Or are you playing that fourth place schedule? The Patriots last year, easy schedule. This year, not so much. The second win total, I think, is interesting. That same thing, the Detroit Lions. Win total of 10.5, which is high, but they have that easy schedule. I think people forget they finished in last place in the NFC North. So they get this schedule where they have the Saints. They do have to face the Bills, Jets, Panthers, Cardinals, Packers, Vikings. They play the Dolphins. Like, they have a lot of easier games. They have the easiest schedule by opposing season win totals of any team in the NFL. So if you take all their opponents, you add up the win totals, they have the lowest number. Those are two. And then the Chiefs as well. Only favored in 11 games. That's the fewest in Patrick Mahomes' career. We don't know if he's going to be ready week 1. And they just have a tough schedule. I don't know, and we don't know if they're the same team either. Some of those out-of-conference games, too, having to face the Rams. The NFC West is tough. The Bengals. They just have a tough schedule as well.
It's also such an indication that the NFL is a what have you done for me lately league.
Totally.
It's Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, the modern dynasty in the NFL. They don't make the playoffs last year because Patrick Mahomes gets hurt. And it's like, oh, all of a sudden, you're no longer the darling. But who is? Looking at Arizona as another team that's a big-time underdog. You mentioned Atlanta, how the Chiefs are kind of in rarefied air this year. Who are the teams that Vegas is super high on now that we have the schedule?
So last year it was Buffalo, right? They were projected to be favored in every single game. Didn't end up going that way, but they were favoring a lot. The Rams, 16 of 17 games right now. Only at Seattle is the only game they are projected right now to be an underdog. And they're favored by at least 3.5 points in 10 of those games. So a fairly significant favorite in a lot. I think one that surprises people, the next one, the Bengals at 15 right there. Again, 5 by only 1.5 points, right? So again, we talk about how big a favorite you are too. Not as big a favorite in some of those. And then 14, we have their Bills, Lions, Ravens, and Seahawks. I think surprising as well, 12 for the Bears. Obviously played well last season, but maybe it's a one-hit wonder. We're not sure. That division's so difficult. I was a little surprised that was 12. And on the other side of the ledger, the Cardinals. 0 favorite in 0 games, and 8 as a double-digit underdog, which is that's a lot of games. They're ready for that 2027 draft.
I want to go back to the Bengals for a second, though. We see here your tweet about the Cardinals. I feel bad for them. I'm trying to figure out what we can figure out when you've got a Bengals team that's going to have 2 teams against the Ravens with the new coach, 2 teams against the Steelers with the new coach, and 2 teams with the Browns against the new coach. Like, I would love, as somebody that's not always responsible, I love to just go out there and bet willy-nilly for the fun of it. I look at this and say, hey, that seems like kind of a dumb bet because there's just so much that's unknown about the teams they're going to play.
For sure. Right, and I think it's why it's good to use these as kind of instructive to maybe inform, hey, is there a Super Bowl bet I like? Is there a division bet that I like? I wouldn't go out and bet a bunch of, here, week 3, we're going to take the Bengals against whomever, right? I think it's more instructive. And like I said, those Bengals, 5 of those games have 1.5 points. So those are roughly coin flip games, and those could certainly flip as we go into the season.
We always think we know everything.
Of course.
We're like, oh, we know who's good, we know who's bad. We know everything. And then training camp, we're like, oh, my team's winning the Super Bowl. Week 1, we feel like we have all of our minds made up. And then it's funny to look back on Super Bowl week, all of these assumptions that we made after just a couple of weeks of football. That being said, we don't know anything in May. There's transactions that have yet to happen. Unfortunately, injuries may happen. Obviously,
Fitz's bankroll knows a lot more.
Of course. When is the right time, quote unquote, right time? Is now the time to jump on some of these, game spreads or futures? Do you wait a little bit? When is the right time to make some of these preseason bets?
So I think generally for the casual bettors, I would wait, right? To me, the one that stands out is the quarterback injury situations, right? So by that, I think the 2 big ones, we just had an answer, is Aaron Rodgers playing? So we have that answer. I think the Chiefs, right? So week 1, they're playing the Broncos. We've heard that Patrick Mahomes is coming back, but until he shows up week 1, I'm not sure that we believe that. They're a 2.5 point home favorite against the Broncos. If you like the Broncos, I would grab that, right? Because with Justin Fields playing, that's not going to be plus 2.5. So that would be one. Excuse me. And the other one, getting choked up just talking about this. The other one is
Justin Fields is hard to talk about.
Is the Falcons, right? Now, if you like Michael Penix Jr., if you like Tua, depending on kind of who you're rooting for, they're playing the Steelers week 1. They're about a 3-point underdog. That's another one where you could get potentially ahead of that if you think, hey, one of them is going to play, the spread will change. So I think the big one is the Chiefs. That's really the big one that I would see. But for the most part, it's better waiting.
We didn't talk about talking to you about this, but as you're saying all of this, it just makes it clearer to me. The only thing I'm really confident about right now is find one of the teams that we think is going to suck and make that your future for Coach of the Year. Because Coach of the Year always goes to a team. It's never really the Coach of the Year. It's this team was supposed to be really bad, and they turned out to not be as bad as we thought.
Over expectations.
So I'm just going, it's like, this guy's obviously, let's be honest, McVay could go out there, win 14, 15 games, but if Arizona wins 8, we'll turn around and be like, I don't know, Coach of the Year, So
they win 8 games, he should.
Yeah, actually, that's fair. If the Cardinals win 8 games, there'll be absolute chaos. You want to come hang out on the field during the game with us? Like, I'm going to be running around on the so.
Come on down.
I mean, I love the idea someday of Fox like giving us the hey, the over under on that player was 4 catches. That's his 3rd of the game. Live reporting it while you're running behind them. That's the way it goes. Ben, you always do great work. Thanks for coming down. You guys can follow him on Twitter at bfox22. Read him at yahoosports.com/betting. That's how you get all of his great content. We got plenty of more to come, including some WNBA news and notes. We'll get to you next. Yahoo Sports Daily coming at you live from the IFL Cup at the American Dream Mall. We roll on when we return in 2 minutes. Do not go anywhere.
Are there any teams that come to mind, whether it's Brooklyn, whether it's Sacramento, or anybody else that you think has good incentive to try to move up in the draft?
If there was a team that I was looking at that had an asset, it's Milwaukee at 10 that might use Giannis to, for example, maybe try to get that 5th pick from the Clippers. That's the only team that I'm looking at right now that I say, okay, I think they've got the juice.
This is a team that is also doing it without some signature players in their rotation. Hunter Green, we have not seen him, but what Terry Francona and his staff are putting together right now, Sal Stewart is a Rookie of the Year candidate. Ellie De La Cruz is an MVP candidate. So, yeah, I think that the Cincinnati Reds are a team that has some staying power in what is a very interesting and potentially compelling National League Central.
Give us your final loser here, Boone.
Denzel Boston. Among this rookie class, I think we had a lot of hope that he was going to go in round 1. That didn't occur. But they took a first-round receiver in Casey Concepcion, who I think is a better prospect. This team often has to deal with bad weather late in the season, which can also impact pass catchers at the worst possible time in the fantasy calendar. It all boils down to me not being nearly as excited about him as a prospect in Dynasty or redraft.
Second and 3. Neal down the left side. A run is open. Touchdown. Second touchdown today. Kevin Rudd. 4th and goal. Steamwheelers have to have it. Neal well protected. Neal, now he's in trouble. Into the end zone. Jump ball touchdown. Keon Williams, his 2nd touchdown today.
This advertisement created plenty of conversation. Do not disturb. The W is on today. Now, they included graphics for both of their games. The Aces visit the Dream, and then the Seattle Storm face off against the Indiana Fever. And, Caroline, we're going to have a nuanced conversation about something because you and I cover the W a lot. It's a sport that we're passionate about the growth of. I think sometimes you have to be aware of when you are giving ammunition to people that don't necessarily have the best of intentions. They just want to find something to yell about. I understand you can't always or won't always put one person on every billboard. It gets monotonous, maybe, I guess. But the WNBA putting out a graphic to support a huge day of action for Indiana that does not include Caitlin is, to me, stupid. It misses the mark, and it gives fuel to people that are arguing for the sake of arguing. They were never going to watch the game anyway, but they use this as the reason to spend an entire day all over negative content around a sport.
Welcome to the W. The W is full of negative conversation from naysayers that just frankly don't like women. So, if you're the W, part of your job is to not care about that, to not care about the people that are so vocal about a sport and about a league that aren't going to watch it. But also, the W's job is to market their product. They are a promotional league. This is not WNBA.gov, okay? Like, this is a for-profit organization. So a smart marketing and business approach is, how do we get as many eyeballs on our product as possible? That's how we make money. That's how we sell ad dollars. That's how we sell tickets, is to get people interested in our product. That's Raven Johnson. I love Raven Johnson. She is a rising star in this league. She was a superstar at South Carolina. I think that she's going to be a future defensive player of the year in this league. Raven Johnson is not Caitlin Clark. Raven Johnson's not even Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham's not the best player on that team, but Sophie Cunningham is a recognizable face, is a recognizable name. She was in the SI Swim issue, for crying out loud. She's a superstar in this league. So you want to use the names and the faces that are recognizable, even if it says something as simple as a graphic. That's what gets, conversation started, positive conversation started surrounding your product. I will go even further, though, because not putting Caitlin Clark on anything FIFA related, I think, is a miss. This matchup was Flau'jae Johnson versus Caitlin Clark. Flau'jae plays for the Storm. Flau'jae is another recognizable name. She's another recognizable face. She is
an entire whole music career.
She has a song with Lil Wayne. Okay, Flau'jae Johnson is a superstar in this league. And the W has done a fabulous job of promoting the college to the W pipeline, promoting those fan bases. I mean, the Dallas Wings are like UConn 2.0. So many Iowa basketball fans are now Indiana Fever fans because of Caitlin Clark. They did a good job of promoting rivalries that started in college, natural rivalries that existed in college, and then have had a trickle-up effect to the W. They've done a really good job. The W has in the past of promoting Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese because that was such a spark plug of a conversation in that LSU Iowa National Championship game. Angel Reese pointing to the ring finger, to the number one topic on First Take the next morning. You know who else was on that team? Flau'jae Johnson. Flau'jae was on that LSU team that beat Caitlin Clark in Iowa in the national championship game. So not only is it a miss to not promote Caitlin Clark, it's a miss to not promote Flau'jae versus Caitlin. Superstar versus superstar. That was the first thing that stood out to me when I was looking at the slate of games in the W. It was like, Flau'jae versus Caitlin. It's going to be great. So is this the end of the world? No. Is the WNBA going to lose millions of dollars and millions of followers because they didn't put Flau'jae and Caitlin on a graphic? Of course not. That's silly. But for a league that I think is I would say at a point of vulnerability in terms of its growth. It needs to figure out a way to capitalize on the growth that they've experienced, but also build on the growth that they are going to see in the future. I think any opportunity that you can get to promote your superstars is vital, and it was a miss.
It doesn't have to be catastrophic to be stupid. And to me, this isn't catastrophic, but it is stupid. And I constantly remind everybody, it's okay if you don't like the W. Fine. Don't like the W. Great. I divide the WNBA audience into 4 groups. There's a group of people that love it. There's a group of people that don't love it. There's a group of people that have never watched a second of it and decided they hate it. And then there's a group of people that have never watched a second of it but decided they love it just because they want to be on that side. I think you have to understand all 4 of those audiences when you are a league and you are building. So what you have to understand is while you might look around and say, hey, we want to promote something different. We want to create a different moment here. We want to try and create ancillary superstars. Okay, great. Then create a different graphic that has a bunch of players from Seattle versus a bunch of players with Indiana. Find other ways to make your graphic because you have to be aware of all 4 of your audiences for the WNBA every time you make a move. You are, in some ways, going to give fuel to everybody with each decision you make. So, yeah, it's not catastrophic. It's just stupid because what you did yesterday by not putting Caitlin on the marquee, not putting her on the advertisement, what you do is you give all the people that are in that group that have never watched a second of the W but just decided it sucked. Now you've given them all day to have Twitter to remind the world how much your product sucks. That's how they see it. For everybody that has watched the W that doesn't like the W, you've also fed them. You've given a voice to 50% of that people. And I think that's the mistake here. You have to be aware, like it or not. You just have to be aware. When you release music, which I was lucky enough to do for a very long time, you have to be aware of critics. You have to be aware of certain things. You have to be aware of the voice you're giving people when you do things. When we do this show, we have to be aware of the voice that we're giving people. So I think that that football was very close. So I think we have to step back sometimes, and you have to take a long look at your decisions, asking yourself, is this best for the game? Well, I would argue not putting Caitlin on the graphic is not best for the game. Mm-hmm. Is it best for promotion? No. Is it best for the people that love this game? Not really, because they're all looking at it saying, that's kind of weird. Is it worst case for the people that don't love this game? Yeah, because you've given them an extra piece of fuel. Is it bad for the people that are just negative no matter what? Yeah, you've given them fuel. So I think they lost in all 4 categories by making this one decision. Not catastrophic, just stupid.
And I do think, too, I can understand the concept of people know Caitlin Clark and people are going to recognize Caitlin Clark, and we need to find a way to build up the brands of other players around Caitlin Clark. I do understand that thought process from the W, and I do think that that's an important, building block and marketing tool for the W moving forward. How do we make other players just as beloved as Asia and Caitlin and Paige? You know how you don't do that? By putting those players on a graphic and not putting their names on it. Just putting their faces on a graphic doesn't necessarily all of a sudden make Raven Johnson just as popular as Caitlin Clark. The way that you do, it's a different way that you do that.
You also, unintentionally, Indiana suddenly spent a day that could have been a great thing for Raven and her family and everybody that loves her and everybody that supported her. Instead, it became a Raven versus Caitlin.
Yes.
Now you pitted teammate versus teammate.
And why does it always have to be player versus player in the W?
It shouldn't. And I'll go back to, I know I make a lot of wrestling analogies with you, but in wrestling, there's this concept that a superstar has to help somebody get over, is what they call it. So if you're going to be the next superstar, then the current superstar has to do something that helps create the reason you're part of that conversation. It's part of the storytelling art that writers spend a long time in wrestling trying to perfect. I looked at yesterday. If you want to create more conversation, then use Caitlin as the reason you get them over. Create graphics that have Caitlin with other people. Create a video. Give me some sort of, they have everything at their disposal. Give me creative content that might make somebody that doesn't know Raven say, oh my God, this is awesome. I want to check this out. Do that. Instead of even having the wow, this is awesome conversation, instead it became a race conversation. It became the league doesn't want Caitlin to have that profile conversation. And again, I think that most of the people having a lot of those conversations weren't really open to having a genuine W conversation, which is what we're trying to do. But you give a voice to that crowd when you handle these things the wrong way. And that's just that's the part that I expect leadership. I hold Kathy Engelbert to a high standard, not just because she's the commissioner, but because when you are the commissioner, you're supposed to see things coming a mile away. I shouldn't be more capable in that moment of seeing the bad from that than the league is. And that's why I think it's disappointing for the league.
It's also just kind of marketing 101. Thunder, Spurs. Who's on the graphic?
Shea and Wemby.
That's Shea and Wemby. It's easy, simple, done. Easiest decision that they will make all day long. When there are obvious matchups, when there are obvious superstars in a matchup in a league, it's so easy, right? It's the reason why when we just saw some NFL schedule release videos. Bijan Robinson was the most focal point of their schedule release. Not Tua, not Michael Penix Jr. It was Drake London and Bijan Robinson because they are the biggest superstars on that team, and that's how you promote your team, and that's how you sell a product when maybe the most desirable position normally on a team is not the biggest star on your team. To your point about almost, being famous by proxy or famous by association, that's how Sophie Cunningham became a household name. Sophie Cunningham's been in the league for several years. She was not a very well-known player. She wasn't on SI Swim. She didn't have 1 million followers on TikTok until she became that player that, started defending Caitlin Clark, both physically and verbally and vocally in press conferences. That is the Caitlin Clark effect. Angel Reese has the same kind of effect that if you are with this person by association, you become famous. Their fame rubs off on you. So to your point, there is, I think, a strategic way for the Fever themselves and for the WNBA to be incredibly strategic. That now you have superstars. You have Paige Beckers as a superstar. I think AZ is becoming a superstar just, again, by association. Asia Wilson is a superstar. Caitlin Clark is the superstar. How do we support and elevate everyone around them? Because right now in the W, it's incredibly frustrating what I'm seeing. It's her or her. Her against her. It's this or this. If you like this, then you hate this. And it doesn't have to be that way, and it's exhausting, frankly, that it is.
It shouldn't be that way. I mean, at some point...
It's not that way in the MNBA.
100%. And, and again, to use a reference that was out there many times on social media yesterday, I can't imagine in the heat of Magic Johnson that the Lakers would put out a billboard that had Kurt Rambis on it, right? Like, and forgiveness, exactly. I was about to say, for everyone that doesn't know who Kurt Rambis is, I'm sorry. That's my point, right? Like, you mentioned Raven is a potential future defensive player of the year. And this is where I turn around and say, okay, somebody tell me who the defensive player of the year was 4 years ago in the NBA. Like, it doesn't resonate the same. And these things don't happen by accident. There's a reason why, no matter what we're talking about, whether we're talking about sports or music or entertainment, there's a reason why when you're an actor and you're just starting out, if you want to go to certain clubs, you got to take your famous buddies with you, right? Like, you don't just get into the club. You have to have people that are an entry point. You have to have the gateway that comes into it. The W knows that. They're good at storytelling. They understand that. They just flat out miss the mark. And unfortunately, they're held to a standard where, because there are so many people that are waiting for them to miss the mark, and I can't do anything about that. All I can do is say that when you have to know that, you have to be aware of it, and you have to be better than that. So hopefully the NBA learns from that, because they created a conversation over the weekend that was bigger than the games, and they didn't need to. We're at the IFL Cup. We are hanging out here because there's tremendous indoor football league action happening today. We'll talk to an expert on it coming up next as we continue to hang out with the IFL Cup from American Dream Mall. Yahoo Sports Daily rolls on when we return in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We saw Dexter Lawrence traded last week. Now that we've gotten through the draft and the dust is settled, was that the right move for the Giants?
I don't know if it was the right move or not. I didn't like the move. This guy's one of the top 5 defensive players in football, and he has been that way for a while. He pushes the pocket back. He creates plays for everybody else coming off the edge. I didn't like it, but they had their reasons. Much love, much respect to Dexter Lawrence. Great football player.
There was a big bright light shining on the hall, and I saw these 2 figures, and they were coming. I couldn't see who they were. It was just like dark, shadowy figures. And then we walked past them, and I was just talking to Jeff, and they were talking about before we started signing about how it goes. And then grabbed me from behind, and he's like, hey, he says, you're not even going to say hello to me? You're doing that? And it was Taker. I said, I had no idea it was you, but that's so cool. It's so good to see you, man. I gave him a hug, and I said, man, I got to tell you, I said, I'm super excited for you, man. Are you excited for Dave Meltzer to give you the Booker of the Year award? And he said, shut up, you know.
I do trust Ben Johnson, and I do trust Caleb Williams and their relationship. And as you and I know, the most meaningful moments of the game are the final 120 seconds of regulation. And that's where the Bears have had success. And that was where they had to prove it to us fans and former players. And they did that. So now we get to sit back, go like this, and just have fun and watch Ben Johnson terrorize the National Football League.
Randolph will now be in the left slot. Delora, plenty of time. Shot down the field, open receiver, caught, touchdown, Nighthawks. Deshaun Stoudemire, give him 6.
You see it right there, that beautiful graphic, and boy, is he tan in the middle. Jared Widman joining us, president of the IFL Business Division on Yahoo Sports Daily. We are live at the IFL Cup in American Dream Mall. And look, I thought in the picture that it was, but now I look at you, and he really is that much more tan than
you are bronzed, my friend.
He is, you look good.
My wife told me I looked like an Oompa Loompa the other day in the picture, so we got to stay out of the sun a little more.
No, it looked great, brother. So, talk to me a little bit. We are here at American Dream. Why did you want to make a mid-season tournament part of the IFL?
So the IFL on Yahoo has been a spectacle from the start. The numbers have been off the charts. We're looking at 6 figures per game. And what better way to do this? Bring 4 of our marquee franchises here to the East Coast biggest entertainment complex and just do a week-long extravaganza. And then you throw Babchek, Caroline, and Fitz in the mix, and we've got a great time.
I mean, just to be in the same conversation as Fitz and Babs truly is an honor, along with the IFL. You mentioned the success that the league has had this year. We are so proud to be part of it. How did we get here? The IFL is a growing league. The IFL is a league that has big time, aspirations and goals. How did we get from the beginning of the season to where we are now in this?
I think a lot of the credit goes to somebody we all know, Ryan Spoon. He noticed what we were doing as a league, and he wanted us to be able to bring this to the masses here. So along with his team and Paige, we decided to put all 119 of our games on national television. We brought both of you guys in. You were there opening night in Fishers for the first game ever. We did great numbers, and this week is nonstop action across all the Yahoo platforms.
So let's talk a little bit about that action. We have a game at noon. We have a game at 7 p.m.
Absolutely.
Then we'll have games on Sunday also from these 4 teams. The rest of the week, you've got everybody out here. What are you guys doing with everybody?
So we got a bunch of media in the city this week. We're going to be going to 2 different Yankee games. I'm sure Fitz and some of the Chupacabras will be on those roller coasters at some point. And there is a rumor that Brent Stover is running the water park the next 2 days with the Vegas Nighthawks.
That's amazing.
Oh, I absolutely love it. You know, the franchises that you just mentioned that we see represented here. New Mexico, a brand new franchise. Vegas, a franchise that has seen a lot of success but is a newer franchise. Then you look at Arizona and Orlando, 2 cities with rich histories of indoor football. Why those teams?
So Vegas is our defending champions, and Arizona won in 2024. Fitz was there right in the middle of it. There was some serious action from them. Yeah. But bringing our 2 newest markets back in, Orlando, who plays in the Kia Center, which is our best building in the country, and then you throw in the Chupacabras from Albuquerque, it's a great mix of teams that we wanted to bring out here to give the fans exactly what they've been asking for.
Okay, so let's talk about the fans for a second. I realize you are not the commissioner of the IFL, but as somebody with the cachet that you have at the league, you saw the brawl, I saw the brawl.
Yes, sir.
How did the league feel about what was that? Because fans have been talking about whether or not there should have been bigger punishments, all these things. Everybody's yelling on social media. How did you guys sort of feel about it? How did you guys address it?
Well, we are the major league of indoor football, and we want everyone to behave accordingly. But listen, we're live sports. Things happen. You have grown men out there, a little pushing, a little shoving. The league handled it. There were some hefty fines laid out, but I think they're going to settle it on the field, and there's a chance, I'm not telling you what could happen, there's a chance they play again on Sunday night.
I'm not cheering for anyone either way. I am an unbiased broadcaster, but I know that would be must-see TV. I'm curious from your perspective, the correct balance of making sure that everyone is coloring in the lines, that you are representing the league in a positive way, but also embracing the fact that physicality and tension is good for business.
Yeah, we're not playing chess out here. When you bring Jason Fitz in, you know you want a level of electricity, and that's why we had him there. We had the perfect guy out there for that. We want our fans to have fun. This is not professional wrestling. We don't want to go anywhere near that, but we are live action, 100 miles an hour on a 50-yard field. Things are going to happen. Guys are going to bump into each other from time to time.
You've worked in capacities around sports for a long time. We all know that there's more out there than ever. How do you separate now? In this world where there's just so much content being made by so many people, how does the indoor football league sort of grab on, not to the audience it already has, but to the next audience and really claw their way through that?
I think bringing on shows like Yahoo Sports Daily and having your fans come in there, 500,000 people love to watch you guys. They might like to see you cover football, but our game is basketball, lacrosse, and hockey and football all mixed together. There is no punting. It is 100 miles an hour. So our biggest lift is getting people to see it for the first time. When they see it for the first time, like they're going to be the thousands of people are going to be exposed to today, they love it, they're hooked, and they come back.
I'm hooked. Getting to be in it, you know, I've been a fan of indoor football for a long time, but actually getting to be in the middle of it and talking to fans, talking to coaches, talking to players, being upfront and personal with all of the action, the speed, the physicality of the game, it's intoxicating. What is your personal favorite part of the game, if you can just be a fan of the IFL?
So they don't actually let me handle much football. Commissioner Tryon doesn't let me pick the uniforms or design the plays, but the broadcasters are a big part of what I do. And having you guys have that access, where if 2 coaches are going at it, you could put a microphone in their face. After a play today or before a play today, Caroline, you could ask the coaches what they're going to call. That's a huge access for our fans. It's something they love. It's something you don't see in other sports. Being able to know what play is going to be called. Being in the end zone as a sideline reporter, getting commentary from the guy who scored, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and for anyone that hasn't watched, I say this all the time because we realize there's new to the audience. It's electric. Today, for the games that we'll have, Caroline will be right there with the team and with the coaches. I'll literally be on the field running with the team. Like I can walk up to the offensive coordinator and literally put a mic in front of his face and say, what's the call? And he will tell me as they're about to run it. So it makes for a much different broadcast than you've ever seen anywhere in football. It's also a different experience. For example, every football that goes out of the field,
fans get to keep
it. I'm mesmerized by you. I be fully transparent. I'll admit our friendship, obviously, that's grown over this process. But as we leave buildings, you take the time to say thank you to everybody that was in the building. Like, what is it about this league and trying to, particularly while also, going out and playing physical football, you're also marketing to kids, to families?
So we are a family-first league, and it's the path Commissioner Tryon put us on well over a decade when he was asked to lead this league. Everything is about our fans. It is family first. We're here to give them a great time. As you guys see, the ball goes in the stands. Kids can keep it. They can bring it on the field afterwards and get an autograph. No charge. You come, you meet your favorite players, and again, it hooks them for life. We've got fans for life.
And that is one of my favorite parts of the league, watching kids' faces light up. A player comes by, gives them a high five. They can take a picture with them. And the kids just have the biggest smiles on their faces. What's next? Obviously, we are in the thick of a season. We have the IFL Cup ahead of us. It's a massive stage. But what is your greatest goal for this league?
So the greatest goal is to finish. We grow week after week. And to get business-wise, our ratings are going up week after week. What that means, more people are watching us. You guys had Jerome Bettis on Friday. Athens has their big press conference on Thursday. Jerome will be here on Yahoo on Sunday night. Jerome Bettis and his group down in Athens have our new team. We've got another team that we're ready to announce. So more teams, more games, and more Yahoo.
I'm going to ask you a deep question.
Oh, here we go. I might make something up.
Well, that's fair. Expansion is always tricky, right? Like, we've talked so much about the W and over-expansion. How do you guys approach wanting to add more, but also making sure you're not diluting the product?
So Commissioner Tryon has set very, very strong standards. It is not an easy process to get into our league. It's multiple years, multiple hoops you have to jump through, and we're very, very picky. That's how we've been running for 18 years without any interruption. Besides the NFL, we're the longest tenured football league in this country.
So you mentioned how picky you are and how you should be. And Jerome Bettis, David Pollock coming into
Fitz tried to buy a team twice. We said no, it wasn't going to happen.
So far, it turns out good looks don't work. I tried.
He was willing to trade some of those platinum records.
They asked me. They were like, please, Caroline, please own a team. I mean, like, they're asking me. They're saying no to you.
We should get one in Charlotte. We live down there. Yeah, my little boys want one.
I would love a team in Charlotte. I will officially be on the bandwagon for bringing IFL to the Charlotte. But why Athens? Why was that the correct market for the IFL to add?
When you look at football markets in this country, I don't know if there's, I know you're an LSU girl, but there may not be anything more passionate than the Georgia Bulldogs down in Athens. Having David Pollock involved with the group, having Brian Jordan involved in the group. It is a gorgeous brand new building, and it's a market that's thriving for football all year round. Not to mention, once the season ends, we pick up right where they left off.
The league, for anyone that is new, is all about scoring, right? It's points and points and points. We're talking games. What was our final score the other night? 58-42, something like that.
Even that was low scoring.
That was low scoring, right? Like, the over-under on these is always in the 90s. So, but also with that is coming all of this new attention, and obviously our partnership. How are the coaches and owners and teams adjusting to just more eyeballs and more attention for places like us, more continuity and everything?
Absolutely. There's not only the media attention, but there's some X's and O's. Media timeouts are longer now. Our savvy coaches have been able to save more timeouts and call plays during media timeouts. And where everyone thinks it's offense, and that's definitely a part of it, it puts a premium on a defense. When you make a big stop in this league, when you get a turnover, it could change the whole game. I see we have Brent Stover who just walked up.
Brent Stover's walking around.
The voice of the IFL, Brent Stover.
Fresh off of the ski lift, perhaps. Maybe
Probably.
one
He
of
was
the
in a
roller
water park and a ski
coasters,
lift.
water park, whatever else they have in this mall. It is truly endless. Anything that you want to do, you can do here at American Dream. You bring up the speed and the scoring of this game. What is the process of finding the right players? I know that's not necessarily your job as the president of the IFL, but getting the right people involved in this league is, I'm sure, important from the top to the bottom.
Well, I tried out for the league. It didn't make it, so I went to the business side.
I've seen your speed. I'm surprised. I'm surprised. You could have had.
We have some of the best athletes in the world, and that's a misconception. A lot of our guys are from the Big Ten, the Power 4, SEC. We have guys moving up to other leagues. Our league is a platform to improve your life. We're not looking for guys to come here and be 5-year veterans. We're looking for them to come in, show our fans in the world what they could do, and move on to another level.
Well, and you've seen some of that this year, right? Like, you guys always seem to be aware of the Canadian Football League and the UFL and all these other opportunities for players. It's a very player-friendly process. How do you do that, but also honoring the teams that you have now?
Absolutely. It's a little bit like minor league baseball. You know your best player could go, but if you look at some of the coaches behind us, Coach Kyle Moore-Brown, long history in the NFL, Coach Mike Davis, Virginia Tech, they have contacts everywhere, and we are constantly getting called by different leagues to get our best players out there.
You mentioned that Kyle Moore Brown's history in the NFL. Kyle Moore Brown also is in the Indoor Football Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
So many coaches have a long history of playing in or coaching in indoor football. What is it from your perspective? What is it about players and coaches that just want to stick around in this league?
It's intoxicating. So Coach Kyle Moore Brown, who is from about 3 miles from here, it's a homecoming for him. He was on the staff in Vegas last year. You can see his championship ring. He came in and one of our new teams said, who's the best assistant in this league? And they snagged him right up. This league is intoxicating. We say it's a family. It's a very rapidly growing family. But the people who are in it see a future here, and they love being a part of it.
Well, we love being a part of it. Yahoo loves being a part of it, too. Don't forget, we got 2 games for you today. One's at noon Eastern, and the other is at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then Sunday, we will have 2 more games for you. So, as always, the IFL is all over the Yahoo Sports Network. We're really proud of it. Yahoo Sports Daily coming at you from the IFL Cup. The American Dream Ball rolls on. Jared, thanks for the time, man.
Thanks for being here. Thank you, guys.
We'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
We saw Dexter Lawrence traded last week. Now that we've gotten through the draft and the dust is settled, was that the right move for the Giants?
I don't know if it was the right move or not. I didn't like the move. This guy's one of the top 5 defensive players in football, and he has been that way for a while. He pushes the pocket back. He creates plays for everybody else coming off the edge. I didn't like it, but they had their reasons. Much love, much respect to Dexter Lawrence. Great football player.
There was a big bright light shining on the hall, and I saw these 2 figures, and they were coming. I couldn't see who they were. It was just like dark, shadowy figures. And then we walked past them, and I was just talking to Jeff, and they were talking about before we started signing about how it goes. And then grabbed me from behind. He's like, hey, he says, you're not even going to say hello to me? You're doing that? And it was Taker. I said, I had no idea it was you, but that's so cool. It's so good to see you, man. I gave him a hug, and I said, man, I got to tell you, I said, I'm super excited for you, man. Are you excited for Dave Meltzer to give you the Booker of the Year award? And he said, shut up, you know.
I do trust Ben Johnson, and I do trust Caleb Williams and their relationship. And as you and I know, the most meaningful moments of the game are the final 120 seconds of regulation. And that's where the Bears have had success. And that was where they had to prove it to us fans and former players. And they did that. So now we get to sit back, go like this, and just have fun and watch Ben Johnson terrorize the National Football League.
Randolph will now be in the left slot. Delora, plenty of time. Shot down the field, open receiver, caught, touchdown, Nighthawks. Deshaun Stoudemire, give him 6.
The all-new 2026 Soccer Pick'em is here just in time for the world's biggest soccer tournament. Make picks each round, earn points, climb that leaderboard, play solo, create a private group of friends, join a public group to play with other fans, or even join our Yahoo Sports group to see if you can beat us. Cheat code you can. Join at yahoofantasy.com/soccer pick'em. That's yahoofantasy.com/soccer pick'em. Hopefully I do better than I did in the March Madness tournaments. That's all we're going to say about that. No promises. The soccer pick'em is going to be electric. We'll have plenty of coverage here on Yahoo Sports Daily of soccer all summer long. Obviously, it's a big global moment for all of us, but also big moment in the NFL. Ian Rappaport reporting something that Dan Patrick sort of leaked out to the world a few weeks ago. NFL owners are expected to approve Nashville as the host of Super Bowl, a lot of Roman numerals, in 2030. The game will be played at the Titans' new stadium, which is set to open in 2027. Caroline and I both have a lot of history with Nashville. We both worked in that market. We both lived there. Obviously, this was something Nashville, I think, expected when they built a new stadium in 2027, but they will be an electric Super Bowl host.
I believe that is 64. Super Bowl 64.
Sure.
It is going to be an absolutely electric Super Bowl host, and this is why, part of the reason why, the Titans are building that brand new stadium, state-of-the-art, multi-billion-dollar stadium at the base of Broadway in Nashville. I lived and worked and did local sports talk radio in Nashville whenever the conversations about a new stadium were starting, and then whenever they broke ground in Nashville. So I talked about this a lot. And there was a lot of conversation of, do they move the stadium to Murfreesboro? Do they move the stadium to maybe some of these smaller suburban areas outside of Nashville? But no, it was a priority for Amy Adams-Strunk, the owner of the Titans, and for the NFL to keep the stadium in the heart of the city, right at the base of Broadway. And I think that was a very, very smart decision on the part of the Tennessee Titans ownership and of the NFL. The big reason why, a big push for the new stadium was, we're getting a Super Bowl. We can get a national championship in college football, get WrestleMania. That Nashville will become the center of the world of sports. Nashville is a tourism attraction in and of itself. It's Broadway, it's country music, bachelor and bachelorette parties. But with a state-of-the-art stadium, it levels everything up. So I think Nashville's going to be a great Super Bowl host city. It checks all of the boxes. All of the hotels that are available within walking distance of the stadium. So many convention centers and places for ancillary and auxiliary events that happen in Super Bowl week, and Radio Row, and all of these big activations for all of the brands that want to be there. It's fun. It's walkable. It's a city that can support massive events like this. I think Nashville will quickly become in the rotation for Super Bowl cities very quickly.
Yeah, and you see the rendering right there from that Mike Garafolo tweet. It's going to be a beautiful stadium that looks very much like new construction in Nashville. You mentioned the walkability, the convention center right downtown. This is the culmination of a 20-year growth build for Nashville that was very intentional. When they first built their original football stadium, even at the time, I heard conversations on Sports Talk Radio when I was just living in Nashville about, we need a Super Bowl. Well, the number one issue people always thought was the dome. It was actually the number of hotel rooms. So part of the reason that there's been this meteoric growth was because they want to be able to host more events like this. Nashville was built to host it. If you like it, then you got to put a dome on it. That's why this is part of the conversation. They would not be in this conversation were there not a lid on that stadium. And now I think other cities need to take a long look in the mirror. The owner in Miami mentioning that they're sort of falling out of rotation as he tries to get a new stadium for the Dolphins. And frankly, it's going to get tougher and tougher because Vegas has built a spot that people like to go to for the Super Bowl with the stadium and a walkability factor that seems to work. New Orleans is always going to be a favorite city because of its walkability. These are things the league genuinely thinks about. San Francisco, where we just had the Super Bowl, was actually a nightmare for trying to get from the stadium to where the teams practice, to where media is. All of these things get more difficult. You could get away with that a generation ago. But now as more cities come in, building their plan from day one about how they can maximize events, the Super Bowl, once it goes into rotation in Nashville, it's not going to leave rotation, much like Vegas. You mentioned the Final Four. Once it goes into rotation, it's not going to leave rotation because it is such an easy spot with so many hotels that make it so easy for teams to come in. It makes it easy for fans to come in. The leagues can do the buyouts they need to do. The logistics of Super Bowls are a nightmare. Nashville has very intentionally, since the moment they started this process, built for those logistics. And Caroline, I think what we're going to see are cities that think they should be part of this rotation are going to have to realize it's not just the stadium, it's everything around the stadium that will have to be refocused and rethought out in order to compete with where cities are going now.
I think weather is also a factor.
Yes.
Look, it's not warm in Nashville in February, but it's also not Minnesota. We had a Super Bowl in Minnesota. It's not going back. You build the new stadium, you get your Super Bowl. We're not going back there. That's the reason why Vegas, New Orleans, Miami are always in the conversation, because it's warm and it's beautiful in February. But I think Nashville is a unique city in that there are some cities that make great host cities, but they're not necessarily sexy cities. San Antonio, Indianapolis, great host cities. That's why the NFL Combine hasn't left to Indianapolis, is because everyone loves going there. It's walkable, plenty of hotels that you can get there. People have their restaurants and their bars and their places that they like to go. We're creatures of habit. So, San Antonio, another great host city. It's easy when you're going there as somebody who's covering the event, or if you're going there as a fan. But then there are some cities that are just fun and sexy. The nightlife is there. San Francisco is a wonderful city. Miami, it's fun. You can go out to the clubs, you can go to the bars, you can go to the restaurants. Influencers and celebrities want to be there. Los Angeles is like that as well. Those cities, logistical nightmares. There are a few cities Better both. Great, sexy cities that people want to go to with great restaurants, C and B scene. There's bars, there's a nightlife, but it's also walkable, convenient. I think New Orleans is the perfect host city because it's fun, because it's easy, because it's convenient, because there's plenty of hotel rooms, but it still has that vibe and that energy to it. Nashville is very similar in that it has its own culture. It has a very buzzing and bustling nightlife, but it also isn't so big that you're thinking, okay, man, I have to find an Uber that's going to take me an hour and a half away, in Super Bowl traffic that we may have experienced in San Francisco or Los Angeles.
I knew people that were even unhappy with Vegas because it took so long compared to New Orleans. Mm-hmm. New Orleans, you can get from point A to point B in a 15-minute walk. Like, you don't even need a car. People were, I think, a little bit dumbfounded by it. You see this all the time, the videos of people on the Strip. They're like, you think that's a block away. It's really a 30-minute walk. So
it's 115 degrees.
But here, 1,000%. But now you look at over the course of the next couple of years. Like, we have a Super Bowl coming. Levi's just hosted the Super Bowl in 2027 coming up. We have SoFi. Yep. LA is going to be there. Then we have Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. You're right. I think they should be concerned about the future. Then you have Allegiant again already. And then you have Nashville. So it just speaks to the new rotation that's starting to happen. Like, I think if you went back in time and you told some of these teams 20 years ago, you're going to find yourself out of the rotation, they would have lost their minds. But that's what's happening in front of our eyes, is that things are changing, and now every single look, Buffalo decided that they didn't care about this by not completely doming. But if your other cities, like when we have the conversation about why would Cleveland put a dome on their stadium, well, because the money you make on these Super Bowls becomes so enticing. Like, for everybody in the middle of December that's going to scream, there's not even a home field advantage anymore. It's not about that anymore. It's about, can we get the biggest event in the world, and how can we get it? And you can't get that without having a stadium, proximity, a dome. Like, these are all the things that are sort of homogenizing some of the stadium experiences are a necessity to be part of the Super Bowl conversation.
Good word.
Thank you.
It's about Super Bowl. It's about college football playoff games. It's about Final Fours. It's about WrestleMania. It's about concerts. It's about music festivals. It opens the door for so many more opportunities in different times of the year. A number of times I've been to the Nissan Stadium now for a concert, and it's like, we got to delay it 45 minutes because we've got a thunderstorm coming down, the southwest. So, that changes just the whole scope of your city, really, and how many doors that might open for new events. You mentioned Atlanta. If I'm Atlanta, if I'm Arthur Blank, if I'm the tourism industry in Atlanta, I'm really worried about Nashville, because Atlanta has been the premier location and city in the Mid-South. Miami and New Orleans in the Deep South for different reasons and different vibes. But Atlanta has been that Mid-South go-to place. Not anymore. That's changing. Look, Mercedes-Benz Stadium is beautiful, and there are so many hotels around there that are super walkable. I was just there for the SEC championship game. I could see the stadium outside of my hotel room. It was so easy. Downtown Atlanta does not have the same kind of party intrigue that downtown Nashville does, that Broadway has. It doesn't have the same level of tourism intrigue that Nashville has. I don't know how many bachelorette trips are going to Atlanta. I know a lot that are going to Nashville. And not that that's everything. Not that the nightlife or the restaurants are everything. It's not nothing. So if I'm Atlanta, I'm becoming incredibly concerned about, are we no longer the darling in our region?
A executive at ESPN when I worked there told me a few years ago that the most important part of the college football championship game is not, in fact, the game. It's everything that happens the days leading up, because they bring in every sponsor and they bring in every person that spent $1 on it. They make sure that they all feel like $1 million. They're all treated to things around town. So when you think about what it means, even from a corporate standpoint, to be able to say, you know what, we're going to make sure that whoever, insert company here, Home Depot, we're going to buy out 3 bars on Lower Broadway. Like that, there is an opportunity to make sure that the people that spend money on your sport feel like they're getting the trip of a lifetime. And that shouldn't be part of the factor, but that is so clearly part of the factor. And they're going to be building a whole nother bar district by the new stadium in Nashville. So now you're going to end up with Lower Broad and whatever they're going to call this right by the stadium.
The East Bank Development is, I believe, what they're calling it now. And that's another thing about living in Nashville. I loved going to concerts in Nashville because Luke Combs and Brad Paisley and Carrie Underwood and Casey Musgraves all came out in different concerts because they live there. That's the same kind of intrigue and availability that's there for other events that happen in Nashville.
It is going to be wild. Speaking of wild, it will be wild all day here on the Yahoo Sports Network. Again, the IFL Cup coming at you. 2 games. You've got Arizona taking on New Mexico. By the way, Chupacabras might be my favorite nickname in the entire sport. There is no doubt about it. And then you have the Vegas Nighthawks versus Orlando Predators tonight at 7 p.m. Both of these games will then create what our matchups are on Sunday. The losers will play Sunday afternoon. The winners will play Sunday night. There's a cup presentation Sunday. Jerome Bettis going to be here flipping the coin and giving out MVP trophy. It is going to be electric. We appreciate you guys watching. We'll be back right here. Well, not right here, but we'll be back where you are tomorrow for more Yahoo Sports Daily. Thanks for watching. Come back and see us tomorrow.